Okay, so when we are looking at individuals, the first important thing to understand, and this is something which students sometimes mess up, is to understand that the majority of the sections that you've studied so far are equally applicable to individuals and other taxpayers like companies or trusts. So, what do I mean by that? I mean, you studied capital allowances and recoupments. Those capital allowances and recoupments can apply to an individual. If I go and buy a manufacturing machine in my own personal capacity, not through a company, and I start manufacturing products and I start selling it, so I'm carrying on a trade, I'm in the production of income, I can still claim Section 12C. I can have trading stock deductions, opening stock, closing stock. I can have forex gains and losses. The majority of sections are applicable to me as well as it is to a company. So your task as a student is when you identify a transaction that usually triggers something that you know, so you'll see, oh, there's a leasehold improvement and you're not sure, go and read the section in the Act and make sure and see if it tells you. They will always tell you clearly. So for example, if we think back to exempt income, section 10(1)(I), that section clearly talks about natural persons. So you know it is only applicable to natural persons and not companies. The same will apply. You'll see they will either tell you it's not applicable to natural persons or they'll say companies only, whatever the case may be. So go and read if you're in doubt. But otherwise, give it the deduction to the individual. Now, so what we are going to be focusing on now is we are going to be focusing on sections which are unique to individuals. There are sections which are unique to companies, dividends tax, for example. There are sections which are unique to trusts, section 25B. So now we're going to look at individuals. So guys, please pay attention, make sure, like I said, when you're looking at it, that it's applicable to natural persons. One of the most important sections to keep in mind when looking at the individual is section 23M. Now this section, it blows my mind. This section is probably the most important section for individuals and natural persons like you and me, because it answers that question, which is, if you are earning a salary and you do work and you incur costs for your clients, so you drive to a client, you insure your motor car, you buy stationery, you have to have internet, you have cellular data that you incur, all of those costs, can you claim a deduction for it against your taxable income? Because we know if a company does it. Think to a company. If a company incurs internet costs and fuel costs, companies can claim it as a deduction. Can you and me? That's the question that we want to answer. And section 23M is the one section that tells us that. And this is the section that is so neglected. So guys, please make sure that you spend a lot of time in section 23M. It's actually very simple. But I want you to understand that you should put a lot of attention and focus on section 23M. It's really impossible to catch you out in an exam if you know what section 23M says. This is what section 23M says. So let's talk about it. So the first thing is you need to remember that there's a section 23 preamble. So a preamble is an introduction sentence, you remember, that applies to all the subparagraphs. Right, so go and see what it says. But section 23, the preamble says, okay, so the section 23 preamble says, no deduction shall in any case be made in respect of the following matters, namely. So, thus, section 23 tells us what we are not allowed to deduct. Please go back to section 23. You would have studied it earlier this year. Go back to section 23 if you can't remember. But let's focus on section 23M. So understand now. It says you are not allowed to deduct the following. Now I just want to quickly show you in this sentence there's this area which is highlighted in green, which I'm going to highlight in green now. For just now, I want you to ignore that part. Okay, please just ignore the part. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reading this section excluding that part in the brackets. We are going to talk about that. That is the whole point behind this section. Okay, but hold on. So, follow now what I'm saying. So I'm saying, you are not allowed to deduct the following. Subject to paragraph K, you are not allowed to deduct any expenditure, loss or allowance contemplated in section 11, which relates to any employment of or office held by any person in respect of which he or she derives any remuneration other than. Okay, so up to there, they say, you are not allowed to deduct any expenditure contemplated in section 11. Now section 11 is a massive section. What is included in section 11, guys? Section 11A, the general deduction formula. Section 11C, legal costs. Section 11E, wear and tear. Section 11I, bad debts. Section 11J, provision for doubtful debts. Right, etc., etc. All of those sections are in section 11. So this section says so far, make sure you bear with me here, or you're keeping up with me, it says, you are not allowed to deduct any expenditure in section 11 which relates to any employment. Right? In respect of which you derive remuneration. Now, remuneration is a broad definition. But what's important in there? Salaries, wages. All of those things are included in remuneration. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second also. So, up to now, keep up with me. I'm saying, you are not allowed to deduct any expense incurred in terms of section 11 if that expense was incurred in the earning of remuneration, which is says wages. So you can't deduct expense which relate to your employment. So if I have to ask you this question, Ms. Y incurs 5,000 rands per year in petrol driving to clients. Can you claim that as a deduction? Let's talk about section 11A, the general deduction formula. If you are carry on a trade, you expenditure and losses actually incurred during the year of assessment. Remember, that's not in the Act, but we know it forms part of the general deduction formula. So carrying on a trade, expenditure losses actually incurred during the year of assessment in the production of income, excluding capital, right? And section 23G says to the extent of trade. Okay, so let's see. Ms. Y, can she claim this under section 11A? Is she carrying on a trade? If you go and look at the definition of a trade, it includes adding a salary, so yes. Is it an expenditure or a loss? Yes. Was it actually incurred? Yes. During the year of assessment? Yes. In the production of income? So let's assume this is the actual amount that she spends on petrol going to clients. So she might have 8,000 rands she spent in total, which has 3,000 rands of private traveling. So let's say this is 100% business, okay, just to make it simpler. Is it the production of income? Yes. So capital nature, well, it's not capital because it doesn't create an enduring benefit. It doesn't add to the structure, so it excludes capital. And is it to the extent of trade? Yeah, we've already said, let's assume it's 100%. So It meets all the requirements here. Think about it yourself. If you are currently driving a vehicle, it meets all those requirements. I can say the same thing also if you don't have a vehicle. Just to give you an example, let's call it Z, incurs 5,000 rands per year in taxi fares driving, well, commuting to clients. Right? So you get in a taxi. Every time you have to go to a client to go and do work, so you earn whatever work you're doing. You're an auditor. Every time you have to go to a client, you have to pay for a taxi. Are you carrying on a trade? Yes. Is it expenditure and losses? Yes. Action incurred during the year of assessment. It isn't a production of income. It's not capital nature. You don't earn the taxi afterwards, and it's to the extent of trade. So yes, can you claim it? Yes, you can. That's what Section 11A says. What does Section 23 say? It says you can't claim a deduction for anything incurred in terms of Section 11, which is incurred in respect of employment. So Section 23M says, yes, we understand that Section 11 tells you that you can claim as a deduction, but we will not allow you to claim a deduction for this under Section 23M. No, no. So guys, up to there. Very important. Do you understand what it says? It says if you're currently incurring these type of expenses, can you claim a deduction for it? Even though it meets the requirements of the general deduction formula? No, you may not. Why not? Because Section 23M says if you incur an expense which relates to employment, sorry, you can't claim a deduction for it. Okay, up to there. Then it says, except for the following. So you may claim the following as expenses. Any contributions to a pension, provident or retirement annuity fund as discussed in Section 11F. So simple, you can claim Section 11F. You can claim any allowance or expense which may be deducted in terms of Section 11C, which is what, guys? Legal costs. Section 11E, wear and tear. Section 11I, bad debts. Section 11J, provision for doubtful debts. Okay, so up to there. Understand what this means? This section specifically talks about expenditure that relates to employment. So all of these costs they're talking about is employment. So legal cost. Your employer owes you money, a salary, and they don't pay you, and you have to incur legal costs. Can you claim that as a deduction? Yes, you can. Can you claim the legal costs which you've incurred when you're buying a new house and there's a problem there, you have to get a lawyer involved to follow up with the seller? Can you claim that? No, because this only talks about employment. Employment. Okay. E, wear and tear. This is an important one. If your employment requires you to have a vehicle or to have a laptop, you can claim wear and tear on that. Okay, normal rules apply. You have to have been the person that purchased it. You have to use it in the production of income. You have to be able to prove how much of it is for business and so forth. Right, but you can claim wear and tear. Bad debts. Your employer owes you salary, but your employer disappears. Okay, you come to work one day and the doors are shut. All the computers have been removed, your employer has fled to the country and hasn't paid you your salary. Gross income definition tells you should include that salary in your gross income because it has accrued to you, you're unconditionally entitled to it. But Section 11I will allow you to claim that as a bad debt. Provision for doubtful debts, same story. Come to the end of the month, your employer hasn't paid you your salary, there's bad cash flow at the company, you're worried that you're not going to get your salary, because you're worried that the employer is going to disappear at night and never come back. There you go. Provision for doubtful debts, you can claim that. Okay, so up to there, guys. What are you allowed to claim? You're not allowed to claim things like petrol and taxi fees, but you are allowed to claim pension funds, provident fund, retirement annuity fund contributions. You are allowed to claim legal costs, wear and tear, bad debts, provision for doubtful debts. You are also allowed to claim Section 11NA or NB. These are when you repay salary and bonus amounts, not as common right now, right, to see. And then any deduction which is allowed under Section 11A, That's the general deduction formula. Hooray! Or D, that is the repair section, okay, in respect of any rent, cost of repairs, or expenses in connection with any dwelling house or domestic premises, to the extent that the deduction is not prohibited under paragraph B. Okay, so if you were getting your hopes up about the Section 11A deduction, then I'm sorry to disappoint you. What are they saying there? They say you can claim Section 11A. So Section 11A is general deduction formula, but you can only claim it if it relates to a dwelling or domestic premises. Right, so you can claim it if it relates to your house expenses. You can claim insurance, water, electricity, property rates and taxes. You can claim repairs. But they tell you if it is not prohibited under paragraph B. Paragraph B is Section 23B, which is the what section? The Home Office Expenses section. Remember that section? That is the section that says you may not claim Home Office expenses unless the Home Office is used exclusively, right, for purposes of employment. It is equipped specifically for purposes of employment. So it means exclusively means you can only use that home office for home office. You can't have it in your spare bedroom. It must be equipped, so you must have whatever necessary equipment is in there. And it must be a condition of employment. If you're earning a salary, so your employer must require you to work from home. Or if you earn a commission, you must be required to work mainly from home. Those are the normal rules. So it says this section basically just says you can still claim that. Okay, so nothing new. So guys, up to there, what does it say? It says you may not claim anything except for Provident Fund, Pension Fund, Retirement Annuity Fund, legal costs, wear and tear, bad debts, provision for doubtful debts, repayments of your salary, so if your boss overpays you, okay, not as important, or you can claim anything to do with your home office, repairs, insurance, etc. All right, but I said to you there was a little sentence that I excluded, and I'm going to now talk about that sentence, and it says here, other than an agent or representative whose remuneration is normally derived mainly in the form of commissions based on his or her sale or the turnover attributable to him or her. So what does that mean? It means Section 23M applies to you and me, natural persons, but it does not apply if you earn mainly, so more than 50%, commission. So if more than 50% of your income comes from a commission, then Section 23M does not apply to you. So what does that mean, guys? That means, if I take you back to this example over here, these two examples, I'm going to quickly remind you, Ms. Y incurs 5,000 rands per year in petrol driving to clients. Ms. Z incurs 5,000 rands per year in taxi fares commuting to clients. We said, if we look at the general deduction formula, you are allowed to claim those amounts of deduction. But Section 23M tells you you're not. Now I want you to see, if they earned mainly a salary, right, Section 23M applies to both of these taxpayers, and there's no deduction. But if they earned mainly commission, then Section 23M does not apply, and they can claim deduction under Section 11A. So what am I saying to you? You might be sitting there saying, is this what Rulon is actually saying? Is he saying that if there are two people doing exactly the same job, incurring exactly the same expenses, but the one earns mainly a salary and the other one earns mainly a commission, then the one who earns a salary may not be allowed to claim a deduction, but the one who is earning a commission can claim a deduction? Is that what he's saying? That is exactly what I'm saying. Section 23M says if you earn mainly a salary, sorry, you can't claim whatever you want. But if you earn mainly a commission, sure, then it's open. Now guys, That does not mean that if you can now claim whatever you want. You must remember there's other sections in Section 23 that still apply. Section 23A, for example, says that you can't claim private or domestic expenditure. So you can't claim the cost of food, for example. And that doesn't matter if you earn a salary or a commission, because Section 23A still applies. So all of those normal sections still apply. But I want you to understand, like, proper business expenses. If you earn a salary, you can't claim what you want. If you earn a commission, you can claim whatever you've incurred and whichever meets the deductions under Section 11.